Okay, a few things before I get on to mutate. Okay, with this empty cars dataset that we saw before, if I hold down Control and click on it, we bring up this view. Okay, and we can also do this by the command view. Yep, and if we want to as well, if we go so I think it's data empty cars, and all that's doing is it's bringing it into here as an object, I think. So I go, yeah. So if I click on it here, we click on any object here, and we can see see the full table. All right, and one other thing is you can actually pop out these tables separately. And the cool thing about it is that if I quickly put this aside like this, so there are two things now. But if I go back to the script, so this is the empty cars object. So empty cars. Let's say that empty cars gets empty cars. Now you wouldn't normally do this. Bear with me. Empty cars gets empty cars, but select and let's take away the MPG column. So notice as well, it's automatically updated that. And let's take away. So what you would do really is you'd go empty cars 2, and we close that one down. Bear with me 1 second. Empty cars 2, yes. Because we don't want to make a circular reference. So here we go. So this is empty cars 2, and it's operating off empty cars. So we can go select minus cylinder, and it's taken away cylinder. And we run it again, and it's done the same thing. And we can just keep adding in changes. Okay. Okay, but my point is, all right. Okay, so empty cars. Let's actually just remove empty cars and start again. All right. New empty cars gets empty cars. All right. So when you look at this table, one of the key things to see is that there's row names. Now, we don't normally like row names in our data. We may as well just make a column called the car name here. So there is a function to get those out, and that is row names to column. If we run it, what's happened now? So new empty cars, we've got this thing here. So we can specify using if we just tab the var argument, car names, it's just what do we want to call that column. And now we look at it, there we go. So very, very useful. And I think it's typical to have the official row names just to be 1 to whatever. Okay. Yeah, that's that. Yeah, there was one other nifty little thing I wanted to show you before we get into mutate, and that is making new rows and making new columns and altering columns, and that is something about the Titanic data set. So at the moment, the Titanic, if we give it, let's say data set. Okay, there it is. So at the moment, this data set, it's a table of sorts, but it won't let us look at it. So it's a funny thing. We don't know what it is. But if I go as Tibble, becomes a much more familiar thing. So here we go. We've got all the different categories of person and then counts. So if you were a first class male child, there was none who didn't survive. Whereas here, if you were a third class male child, there was 35 who didn't survive. So that's a bit sad. Okay. But my point is that each of these rows is not one person. Each of these rows is a count for a category. So I just wanted to show you one little function, and what it does. It's called uncount. So our data set, the n is the one we want to uncount. So let's uncount n. Okay, how does that make it look? So what has actually happened is it's gone ahead and generated as many rows as we needed by that number that was in that cell. So yes, very, very useful. So for example, here we had first class male child who didn't survive. If we go to our data set, we can filter. So first class male, first class male child who didn't survive. So we've got no rows for them. Okay. Yeah, so they all survived, and we can tell that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them and one female. So all those first class children survived. There you go. There's your random stat for the day. But what this is it's much more of a data frame that we can analyze, and that's the critical thing about this course, is getting a handle on how do we get the data to a point where we're able to analyze it. So one thing we might add into a table like this would be using mutate, and that would be person ID equals row number. So that's a function, and if you take a look at it, each one of these numbers is a unique identifier for a person, and these are their categories. Okay, so if we went ahead now, we can go and we could reproduce that original table, like working backwards by aggregating, but we'll cover that again some other time. But I just wanted really to show you that uncount function, which was a really key find for me. All right, you won't get much of a chance to use it, but I just thought I'd show it to you. All right, let's get into mutate.